You're listening to Rally DNA, Episode 5, Part 1.
Meanwhile, back out on the stages, Armin is continuing to entertain. Toyota Germany have decided quite late in the day to contest the European Championship, so a maximum score is vital here. But they had not reckoned on the Austrian veteran Gottlicher finishing so high up in the general classification. Anyway, enjoy an expert at his work.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Rally DNA. This week we're privileged to have a very special guest with us, a driver who drove some of the most interesting cars from the Group A and the 2-litre World Rally Car era, Armin Schwarz. Thank you very much for giving us some of your time.
Thank you for getting me on your podcast, and thank you to look after rallying like you do.
That's it. Well, it's nice to share some stories and put them into a recorded medium for a bit of preservation. So thanks, we do appreciate it. So I guess we may as well start at the beginning. You know, how did your interest in rallying come about? Were you very motorsport orientated growing up, or was it more focused on rallying? Did you have some in the family? How did that come about?
Well, I didn't have anyone in the family who did some rallying, but of course my father was interested on motor racing, on motorbikes, on cars, and there was a very, very early time. There was an enduro race in nearby our home, and I went there with my father, and I got fascinated just about controlling a bike, and then I started enduro riding. Later, I got a job as a car technician and was working in a workshop. At that time, it was a Fiat dealership, and at the time, Fiat was quite big with the 131 Fiat Abarth. And of course, there was straight away an interest, and the owner of the workshop, he was rallying himself. So it just got me into the interest of rallying.
I mean, that was going to be my next point, actually. The Fiat 131 Abarth, was that presumably your first taste of a rally car, driving it yourself?
Well, at that time, I don't think it was really a rally car. It was a car. And we made it to what we thought it is a rally car, or it should be done like a rally car. But it was the first touch to do some rallying. And it was actually the owner's car. It was not my own. I didn't have my own car at the time. But as he was rallying himself, he was that kind, that we could... even my colleagues, they could drive the car for fun. And, it turns out that I did the best out of it from all of us. And then, I got a chance to do a rally with that car, and we finished quite good.
Fantastic. I bet some of your mates are quite jealous of the career you got out of that car.
Yeah, there was quite a challenge, to get a car. So everybody was looking after to get a drive in that car, and we just had fun at the time, and we could play around with the car. It was a really good time.
And from there, then you started driving the Audi 80 Quattro saloon car. From there, how did that experience in the 131 lead to a more permanent place rallying a different vehicle again?
But I have to add a little story because it's quite funny. When I drove the Fiat, it was like not an Abarth version. It was like a Mirafiori, a stock rally car with a roll cage, some seats, and a some guard. And the owner of the dealership, he found out that I was doing pretty good in that car. And at that time, Fiat Lancia Germany, they had a 037 rally car back in '85. And he was trying to buy that car, and they didn't want to sell him the car because they thought, we will crash the car or not doing good with it. So he didn't sell the car end of the day. And when he got so angry that he said, look, try to find a good car, what you think it will get you or lead you to success. And actually then I got onto this Audi 80 Quattro idea. and we bought the chassis, just the chassis at that time. And we put a car together, and a couple of years later, the Fiat Lancia Germany, they have to find out and swallow that, I was beating their factory Lancia Delta twice in the German championship with the Audi Coupe and with the Audi 200. And, then he found out who was the guy who wanted to buy the 037 to win the championship for him. So that was pretty funny at the time to see how things could go.
And I did see scattered across your EWRC results, you did drive a 037 intermittently over the years. Presumably that's the car, is it?
Yeah, that's not that car. No,
okay.
I bought the car myself later on, just because I really liked this Italian rallying and rally time. When you work yourself on those cars, it's your passion. That follows you all your life. With the car you started, you repair yourself, and that has been Fiat. So and Lancia as well, and so I got quite fascinated about these Italian cars, and the 037 I just take out, for fun events from time to time.
Great sounding car that as well. Love the sound of the twin charged engine on that machine.
It is, yes, yeah.
Well, on keeping within the Group B realm, but not quite as exotic, I dare say, at least in terms of country of origin. You also drove a Metro 6R4 that year as well. What was that like? It must have been quite a contrast from the Audi 80, if nothing else.
Yeah, it was a contrast, but to be honest, for me, it was the most fantastic car at that point, because with the Audi 80, you had a limited power. It was Group A. It was close to like a stock car. And we just, in 86, we need to finish at the last rally of this European Championship. What I did is called Mitropa Cup. I need to finish like second in this rally in Germany. And that was not possible with the Audi 80, because there has been so many Group B cars starting that we need to get a Group B car. And we tried to get an Audi, but we couldn't rent an Audi at that time. But there was nearby the Schmidt Motorsport, and Schmidt Motorsport, they prepared at that time for Eklund and for Mark II the Metro. And then I got around there, and they said, why you don't rent a Metro from us? What would give you the possibility to win your championship? And when we did that, and I had the chance to drive the testing, what I did, I had a right-hand steered car. What was totally new to me, and was a totally weird feeling, because I never have driven a right-hand steer car. But the power and the handling, it was so much better than the Audi 80 at the time. And I just enjoyed this ride in the Metro. And, not many people have given me a good chance. We finished with that car, this rally, and I told them we need to finish second. It was even more surprising to them why I've taken a Metro. I said, well, it was simply the best I could find, and somebody give me the best package. And it turned out, it was right, because we could finish like second behind Michel Metton, and won the championship in a Metro.
Fantastic. And of course, you did get your hands on an Audi Coupe Quattro from there that you used to great effect in the European Championship the year after that, in 1987.
It turns out in end of 86, when we won this Mitropa Cup, that Audi got interest on my driving, and they just called me, for an interview, and I went there, and physically I went home with a factory contract. What was, it was a dream. And then I got a chance in 87 to drive the Audi Coupe, what was not much different from the Audi 80, because it had the same driveline, the same engine. It was just a different chassis. And we made all efforts to win the championship in 87, but we did. And then they gave me the Audi 200 for the following year, but I needed to do the German championship again in '88. And then we won the championship again, and got as a present, we got the RAC rally in '88. That was my first WRC event.
And I must admit, I've got a very big soft spot for that Audi 200 Quattro. I mean, was it a challenge to learn to drive a car quite that large? I mean, it always looks preposterously massive to modernize. And did it feel that way at the time?
Yeah, well, if you got into some twisty stages, you know, it was not the best car for sure from the size itself, but it had an advantage. It was a very stable car, and let's say the size calmed everything down. The car was not bouncing and kicking, and it was really progressive to drive, and it was nice to handle. It was a bit heavy probably, but it had good power. I think the biggest downside was that the engine was so far in front of the front axle, what give a huge understeer if it didn't go sideways. And I think that created my driving style, what I kept throughout my entire career. Always try to oversteer a car before it understeer, or I could understeer. And that was coming from the Audi 80, from the Audi 200 for sure.
I mean, you had some really strong results in that car. I mean, that trip to the RAC, fifth overall. I mean, that must have raised a few eyebrows, I imagine, at the time.
It was, you know, for me it was good. And I talked before I went. I had a talk with Walter Röhrl, and he told me, he said, "Hey, you're gonna go with a taxi, you know, to the RAC rally." He said, "You don't think, you know, that will be easy, or you have a chance on a good result, because the car is so big." And at that time, even David Llewellyn and some other guys, they drove also an Audi 200, and they said, "Well, you know, that is not a rally car." And when we got to the RAC, I just came there, you know, as German champion, and I had all self-confidence with me, and it was just fantastic to do these forest stages, and I was fascinated about that. I had a very good co-driver with Armin Schwarz, who has done the British Championship a long time, for many years. So it could not have been any better. And then I just took out all the fun I had. I put it on the road, and the nicest thing was when we got to some of the first stages, and there has been these park stages still. And there was always like a leaderboard, and there has been like little plates with names like Marco Alin and Joa Kankonen and Björn Waldegard, and everybody had his plate. And I saw my name then at one of the stages on third position, but written with a pencil. And Arne turned over and he said, "You know, next year you will have your plate, you know, if you carry on like that." This was, it was great to see that you have been right in the middle of these big names, and it made it even better.
And in 1990, then you really firmly landed on the WRC stage with a proper big factory effort. Presumably, you know, your success in the German championships led to quite a bit of buzz around your career at that time. Did TTE approach you for that drive, or how did it come about?
Yeah, at that point, I don't remember when it was exactly, but I think it was the Acropolis rally. Ove Anderson came over one of the service points, and at that time there was servicing everywhere. You know, you're just next side on the road, you did your servicing, and the Toyota was just across the road. And Ove came over and he had a look on the Audi 200 and had a talk with me, and, you know, what are my plans, and, you know, doing pretty good. And he had an eye on me already on this RAC the year before. And, you know, if I would have an interest, you know, to talk to him, because, you know, they have been in Cologne. So for me, it was easy to drive there. And then I went there with a manager, what I had at that point, and we got to Cologne, and it was quite fast. You know, we got to the point that I get a chance to drive for Toyota if I want. And and then I grabbed the chance, but it was not that easy, because Audi at the time, they went to Trans Am to the United States, and I did quite a lot of testing with a Trans Am car at that point. And it was fascinating, because there they run like 600-700 horsepower, and then you get to a Group A car with, let's say, max 300 horsepower, 320, 330 horsepower. And it was fascinating to do that, but I get always very bored when I'm on a racetrack, because lap by lap, the same thing. That was not just me. And then when the chance came up with Toyota, then I think it was very quickly, it was clear, I want to stay in rallying, I want to go ahead with rallying, and I want to drive for Toyota.
It was a very significant car, that ST165 shaped Celica, presumably both for you, from your own personal viewpoint and also the wider championship. Was it a challenge learning to drive such a high-tech car at the time, with all the X-Track gear and things like that?
To be honest, it was not difficult at all. First of all, I had very, very good people surrounding me, because TTE was, it was a team. And they call it always like an international team. I think at one point they have been like more than 20 different nationalities. And we had, this, let's say, this talent to get a team together on a very international base. And everybody was being behind every driver and all the efforts. And when I did my first test in Rally Monte Carlo, I still remember it was in the Ardèche. And, the first day, they just let me drive. And, just drive like you think you should drive the car, and, have maximum fun with the car. And it was so enjoyable, because coming from this big Audi, and then especially on asphalt, because it was an asphalt test, the Toyota the Celica was so nimble and so easy to drive and so precise, and even with this clutch-pack transmission, you could adjust your transmission, but you couldn't do on the Audi. And all the little help, and then also the help from the engineer, because I was a young driver, so they had Waldegard in the team, they had Carlos in the team, they had Ericsson in the team. Kenneth Eriksson was there, Juha Kankonen before, and I came there as like a nobody, and they give me all the attention, and they wanted to know as much as possible on their car. And for me, it was a gift, telling them my feelings about the car. And then they integrated me in all their testing, and wanted to know everything, what give me quite a big push to be the test driver number one for them, because I wanted to drive anything every day, any day they want me to be there. Because that was, I felt that this was the way of developing my driving style, to know more about the car, get my speed up and everything. And that was great to come in there.
Presumably that worked out pretty well, because straight off the bat in your first rally in that car, you had a fifth on Monte Carlo, first rally in the new team with a new car. So definitely paid off.
Yeah, it was very good. I mean, and also Monte Carlo, it was some rally, but it was my first Monte Carlo that year, and I just love it, because it was so different, and it was so challenging with all the different surfaces, with slick tires on snow, on ice. At that time, you could groove tires, you can cut what you want. It was just endless, the possibilities you had. What was also challenging, because you could also do a lot of mistakes. But again, I had a very good team and behind me, what guided me through Monte Carlo, and that was just fantastic.
And presumably your confidence in that car only grew. I mean, the following year, crowned by that outright victory in Spain. That must have been a phenomenal result at the time, especially given your illustrious teammate at the time as well.
Yeah, but there has been, it was not just winning Catalonia. I think I could have won other rallies before, but I put too much in it. You know, there was too much effort. Like if you see Portugal, I think I was leading 3 times in a row, Portugal, but I went off. You know, stupid enough, not thinking about how long the rally is and how demanding. At that time, it was poor driving fun, and I wanted to grab any fastest time I could, not thinking about, you know, how long the rally was. But then winning in Catalonia, it was actually, I was not supposed to go to Catalonia. I finished like, I should finish second in Sanremo, but then I had, Carlos had a problem with the transmission, and yeah, he needed the points to win the championship or keep his chances alive on winning the championship. And then, yeah, the team has asked me, you know, to make an early check-in on the time control to give Carlos more points, and we finished like 7 in Sanremo. What was really a hard one to swallow, because Sanremo, I did really good, and I think that was one of my really good rallies in that year. But I've given away, you know, this podium position for Carlos's points, and then for that, Ove told me, look, you're gonna go to Catalonia. And we went to Catalonia, and we lead from the start. We lead the rally, yeah. And then when second day appear and Carlos's car didn't restart in Parc Fermé, you know, I know that was my chance to win, because I was sure if Carlos would have been like second or third, I need to do the same thing again. But if they would have done it, if I'm leading the rally and I could win the rally, I don't think Ove would have taken that away. But anyway, we won it, and it was good.
It's very good. I mean, I imagine that relationship with Ove must have been a driving factor, if nothing else, because his origins as a rally driver himself. He must have understood what the consequences were and how he could never make you give that back, as it were.
Well, you know, Ove was a very, very special person. I would say he treated all his drivers, you know, like his sons. You know, it was a familiar atmosphere. You know, he could come around to you and say, look, all damage goes to my bill, you go. You know, and then, you know, it was up to you, and there was a lot of damage, you know. You can imagine if you have like open fire, you know, you are very creative as a driver, and you put everything in it, and that was good even in very difficult times. He always backed you up, you know, and he always understood what is behind what you need and where you struggle. And you know, I think sometimes he had a harder time than the driver when he went off, really he didn't know really what to help and how to support, but you know, he was behind you, and next rally, it was your next chance.
And with that good relationship you had with Anderson, would you left the team in 1992? Did you think there was a chance to maybe extend that time with Toyota? Because it seems like you were very happy with your relationship with the team, or was it a case of going to pastures new and trying to move on from there?
Yeah, I mean, I would, to be honest, if I would know that Carlos would go 2 weeks after I have left to Mitsubishi, if he was going to Lancia, I probably would not switch to Mitsubishi. But you know, Andrew came up, and he needed somebody to set up the Lancer. And yeah, he probably knew my capability as test driver and also as driver, and he made us an offer. And for me, it was always a bit difficult in Toyota, because Carlos had like Repsol with him, and of course he was world champion in the team, and you know, he had more backing from sponsors, not from the team. I mean, the team and Ove also treated everybody very equal. But for example, when we start the season, I know there will be a Monte Carlo for me, there will be a Portugal rally for me, but I wasn't sure if I'm gonna go to Safari and to Sweden. But then it was like Carlos, Björn Waldegaard, Mikael Eriksson, they had the first 2 or 3 rallies, and I had 1 or 2. And then I came back in Corsica because they know that I have been fast on asphalt, and they want me to prepare Corsica very well while Safari was going on. And then I was down on 1 rally, and end of the day, I want to win the championship. And for winning the championship, I need to get all the rallies. And I knew as long Carlos would be there, it would be not possible to be number 1 driver. And with Mitsubishi, I saw the chance to get this. So I went away, and by surprise, Carlos was leaving to Lancia at that point. Then I should have stayed with Toyota, of course.
Well, I mean, on the subject of Toyota, 92, you drove the second Celica GT4, the ST185. Am I right in saying that was quite a tricky car to tame the handling of, at least in the early days? Would that be fair?
I don't think it was that tricky on handling, but if you review all the, let's say, Celicas or all the Toyotas, including the Corolla, I think Toyota always needed a while to get the car in gear. And also the Celica, the 165, it was driven by Juha and Kenneth and Waldegaard and Carlos for already 2 years before they got their first victory with the car. So it was like a kind of process, to get a car right. And other manufacturers, they came out of the box and bang, win the first rally with it. And when they changed the model, it was with the 185, it was very similar. It should have been a better car, but it struggled in certain areas, to get really ahead of Lancia. Mm-hmm. And it was only Lancia and Toyota at the time. Mitsubishi, they competed, but it was like with the Galant and, and Mazda was there and Nissan, but they have been not on the same level. Mm-hmm. And then Toyota needs some time to get this car going. And once the 185 was done, the 205 came, and that was the same story. That it was on the beginning, there was big struggle by using a super strut front suspension. What was, I think everybody wants to see that in the bin, but no, it was on the car, and it was just, it was forced by Toyota to use the transmission, the suspension. And if you see that now with the modern car, when Tommy relaunched Toyota in rallying, that was totally the opposite direction. They came out and they have been fast and reliable. And in the past, it was, they needed time. And of course, that was my period of driving with them. And the 185 just needed time to get developed.
Am I correct in saying that at some point in 92, the team had to lock the center differential 50-50 split with the ST185?
Yeah, but that was not long. It was just, to try out certain things. And it has been not a benefit. I mean, they try to get away from this clutch back. Mm-hmm. And it got even worse. They did not go away from the clutch back. They put on a hang-on clutch, like the Hawk on the 205. Was the Celica 205. And then at one point we had almost like 4 differentials in the car, because you had a front differential, a center differential, a hang-on clutch, and a rear differential. Who need that? Yeah, but it was on the car.
That's a lot of cogs.
Yeah. A lot of adjustments, a lot of headache.
Yeah, it must have been very hard to just get all that set up and working just so. So you can imagine exactly what you're saying. When you have all these things going into a new car, it's never going to be right straight away anyway. Yeah, it was that time we had a lot of development, a lot of new technology arriving into the sport too across all the teams. So it's no wonder that cars don't
You know, there is when I got back from Mitsubishi, and it was one thing when always spoke to me about this 205 car, because the relationship never ended if you leave the team. You know, it was always a relationship, and so we had good talks and discussions even when I was with Mitsubishi. And obviously he could see what I did with the Lancer, you know, in 1 year development. The second year in 2094, we have been leading Monte Carlo. You know, the car was fast. We could really go for the championship if they would have done so, but it was seven rallies, I think we did. And then Ove asked me about this development on the ST205, if I would have an interest, you know, to come back. Yeah, I came back, and the first test I did in the French Alps, I think Didier and Juha was testing already for a while with the car, and this front axle was so difficult to feel, this super strut. And after the first test, first evening, I talked to Ove on the phone, and he said, "What do you think about the car?" And I told him, I said, "I think we are so far away." And, you know, it was dead silent on the other side. And he said, "I hope you're wrong." And we had talks in Cologne, and we test actually on a very similar road where we have been with the Mitsubishi the year before. And then maybe you remember we did the first stage in Monte Carlo, Didier, Juha, myself, Le Molino, and it was a mixed stage with some ice patches, snow patches. And we got to Andre, I think it was Andrec, the town where the service was. And we have been like 1 minute behind the Lancia on first stage. And then Ove came over and he said, "Shit, you are right," he said, "what you told me before Christmas." And that was, you know, like it could go. If you don't get the car right, you know, nobody could go faster than the others, because everybody was running very, very high level, and you need a good car.
And it's still surprising as well at that part of the Lancia's life, it has to be said, that it was still so competitive. It still amazes looking back that the Lancia shouldn't have been as competitive as it was in the early 90s too.
I think they did just a good job. I mean, to be honest, it was a good team, a long history in rallying. They knew all the rallies, they knew all their technical things. The cars have been reliable, very, very little technical issues, very good driver lineup, and yeah, and also the, like Marco used to say, "You always something in the pocket," you know. So when they needed something more, there was something more. So and I think that was their let's say their success.
Moving briefly, because every part of me wants to jump and carry on talking about the ST205 because it's a pet topic of mine. But moving back to the 93 Rally Art spell, that must have been a wonderful car to develop, because it seemed to really be improving in leaps and bounds almost on a rally by rally basis. And you had some fantastic results yourself. But I mean, you were leading the RAC in 93 in the snow, I believe, in the Evo 1. Yeah. Would you tell us a bit more about how the car, you know, came to be and how you thought about it?
No, the car definitely had a big potential, and I think Tommy showed it later on, because it was based on that car, and Tommy won 4 times the championship, you know, after I left back to Toyota. And that was, you know, that was a big pill to swallow, you know, to leave that car there, to find out that Mitsubishi was willing to do all the rallies, what they never disclosed to me, you know, that they will do a full season. And then Tommy came, you know, and boom, here we go, doing the full championship. But anyway, that is part of the game, you know. That's what it is. But coming to rugby and rally art, it was a very small team compared to Toyota. Of course, let's say the team, how it was run and managed, it was totally different than Cologne, because Cologne, I think they have been already at that point 150, 180, or maybe even 200 people that I don't remember. But you came to rugby and there have been like 30 guys, but 30 guys together who really have been like one man. It was so strong, because the team did all the efforts. They knew where they could be strong, and everybody was putting everything into it. And I think at some point Andrew was just trying, not to give a lot, but to ask for more and make people hungry. He knew how to do it, and the effort was good, and the team was good, and I enjoyed those 2 years with Mitsubishi. I enjoy a lot. I mean, I still have contact to some of the mechanics, see some of the engineers from time to time, and it's always a good time to talk about it, because it was also a family like Toyota, but much smaller.
They certainly seem to have their own way of doing things as well. I mean, one example being they were the only team to go with an electromagnetic active differential, which I gather was quite a unique, demanded a unique style of driving. Or would that be correct or not?
Well, they had on the beginning, they had a sprag system, actually like a bicycle. It pulls forward, but if you lift off, it was not connected to the rear axle. What had its advantages on turn in, but it has also downsides when you had like a fast braking, quick step on the brake, hard braking, your back end always was moving away. Yeah. Before it was grabbing the front axle, because they had like a solenoid who actually put some pressure on the differential to close it. But this was a Japanese engineering and development thing, and I think they know exactly what they want to have on the end of the day. But the Japanese, I must say, I really love to work with them, because they have been always honest with you. But on the other hand, they never would disclose something what they think where it should go, because they could fail, and then it turns out like they lie to you. It didn't go their way like they promise you. So there was no promises. It was all very short. Well, guys, now you need to do something with this solenoid. You need to go faster and this and this. Yeah. But it was never action, what you could see. But under the surface, they have been developing and thinking and putting everything in. It was just a different way of working than with Toyota.
And when you went to Mitsubishi as well, you found yourself with a new co-driver who, interestingly enough, I suppose when you went back to Toyota, also went to Toyota, but not alongside you, in the form of Nicky Grist.
Yeah. With Nicky, it was, it was, I have really to think about it. It was at that time I needed to get a new co-driver, because I had my co-driver went with somebody else, and then I got a chance to drive with Nicky, because he at that time he was also as new as me in the World Championship. But Nicky has been always a very, let's say, a focused and ambitious co-driver. And it was a very good fit. And with Nicky, I had a very good time. We share really good times. But his aims have been higher. What turns out right, he wanted to be world champion as fast as he could, and was just, getting from one driver to the other one, ending up with Colin winning the world championship, but it was a very, very good relationship with Nicky, and he helped me a lot.
And I was just curious as well. You've sat with a number of guys over the years, like a lot of drivers. But I was even watching some footage of you with Manfred Heimer as well. And he, despite being a fellow German, also delivers your pace notes in English. Was that always a decision of yours? Or was that, did that start earlier in your career? Did it start with Nicky? Or was that something you always had your pace notes delivered to you in English?
It started actually when I drove with Arne, because I drove in '91. I drove a season with Arne Hertz, and what I find out, looking always and listening to other pace notes, but at that time you didn't have so many onboards. You really, it was not that you went on the internet and you could see onboards from anyone. So whenever I had a chance, I had a look on onboards from other drivers to see, how the notes are, what you could see as an advantage to take that. And what I find out in the English language, everything is shorter and more precise. In German, everything is like long. You describe things, and in English, you get just to the point. And it's much shorter, and you can add more things with shorter talk of your co-driver. And when I start doing that with Arnie, I saw that I could use like international ice crews. It was more, you had more possibilities, and it paid back, when I start driving with Nicky or with Denis Giraudet. And then I kept it when I had a German co-driver, because I was so much into English bass notes that it was shorter to read, to understand, to write, to describe, and it had many benefits.
Fascinating stuff. I mean, yeah. So it's an aspect that me as a Brit never considers. The influence that a different language could have on the ability to convey information quickly from a pace notes point of view.
Yeah, I mean, with Manfred, for sure, you have your difficulties to understand the English, because he speaks so much Bavarian English that you really need to listen careful what he's saying. But but he delivered in English, and we had throughout my entire career, I had English bass notes starting with Arnie.
Moving back to TTE in '95, you must have quite mixed feelings about that season, because on the one hand it's infamous for the ST205 and the boost issue, but on the other it seems to be a car that completely came of age and eventually grew to suit your style perfectly, the following year being the best example for that. I mean, did you have any inclination about how effective the ST205 Celica would become when you first drove it? Presumably not.
No, we did not, for sure not. I mean, we knew only right from the beginning. I knew it would be a difficult season if they would still keep this like super strut front axle, because there was there have been so many linkage and it was just difficult to control and to make it work. And let's say in like mid-season, like New Zealand, New Zealand, Australia, I think that the car was at his best, but it could not go better. And but at his best, it was still not good enough, to win the championship. And also throughout the season, there turns out that Didier had a pretty good chance to win, but theoretically a chance. And with Juha also having still a theoretical chance to win, but I was not in the position to win the championship in that year. Then I was again more a test driver and trying to find things. But end of the day, where a decision was made, to use this kind of air restrictor or not, that I think nobody know. I mean, not at least from the driver's lineup or something that has been done by high management decision or in Japan, or I have no idea. I can't tell. But end of the day, there have been so much force and pressure from so many sides to win the championship that obviously the engineering decides, to do something like that.
I imagine it's something that you have probably been asked about more than you'd like to of the actual the turbo boost issue, and increasingly in recent years as people have become more aware of it.
Well, it was definitely not throughout the year. Mm-hmm. I think it only came up towards the end of the season when it was clear, without an extra boost, you're not gonna win the championship. And that is like Marcus says, always something in the pocket. I think it was very obvious that not only at that time Toyota had something. I think it was earlier on also. Other manufacturer, they had something what, has been not disclosed, or, it was a little bit fishy, but nobody really know where to look and what it was. But, all of a sudden, wow, that car is going good, and of course, engine power is the easiest thing to get you faster. All other efforts more costly and more difficult. And here, nobody on the driver's side really know what it was. I mean, it was obvious there was something that get the car faster, but also you didn't have it like everywhere and all the time. And especially in Catalonia, I must say I was very surprised when that came out, that, there's something wrong with an air restrictor. That was a surprise to many of the team members anyway.
I can imagine. And just briefly, in terms of superstrut, I've heard that compared to trying to setting it up on a rally car was akin to wrestling with an octopus. Was it just a case of too much going on, too many bearings, too many adjustment points, and just too tricky a beast for the grimy world of rallying?
Yeah, I think it put some extra weight on it. It had so many bushes and shims and bearings, and they wear out fast, and then you got play, and it took your feeling away. You didn't have a good feeling. You didn't know, is it gripping now or not? Does it turn really like you want? And that made you unconfident. And if you're unconfident, you are losing time. And what I find out, and what I still see, I think if you can get a driver confident as an engineer, you don't need to look for the last second in your development, because the driver will gain you this second, what you're searching for a lot of money, when he's confident. If you make a lot of searching and the driver gets unconfident, you will have to look really where the second is, because the driver will not find it for you. So it's very, for me, it's very easy. You are confident, you find time. You're unconfident, you lose time.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And were you still using superstrut for your European Championship year in '96, or had you swapped for conventional? I believe, was it Öhlins, I believe, that a lot of the guys swapped for on the ST205?
They did, but we had a lot of leftover stuff from the year before, and we run the car basically like it was in '95. Mm-hmm. We could not change, and there was not much development going on. And for me, it was anyway a very difficult situation, as for Juha and for Didier as well, because we need to sit at home, but that has been never my strong side, to sit at home and be quiet. So I've been running like crazy to TTE, to Toyota Germany, and then going to Castrol, and and it was always a yes from Toyota Germany, a yes from Castrol, a yes from TTE, but a no from Japan. We could not rally that year. And then end of the day, I got through with Castrol, because Castrol has been very supportive this year. And they said, okay, we can think of putting a budget in the European Championship. But, the European Championship, when we started, it was already like almost half of the season was done. And that year you had still this coefficient rallies with coefficient 20, 10, 5. So we pick only the coefficient 20 rallies, starting with, I think it was Ypres was the first rally. And then rallies like the Manx Rally, Rally Germany, Cyprus, and rallies like that. And to be honest, on the Manx Rally, I got there, and it was like in the WRC, the speed was the same, because I faced Bertie Fischer, who know every single meter of this rally. And, it wasn't easy at all because people thought the European Championship, hey, that is an easy task. You get there, you win the rally, you win all 5 rallies we have on our budget, and, you're European champion. I face everywhere, I face a local champion, but big time. It was Freddie Loix in Ypres. I just could not beat him by seconds, but I couldn't beat him. With Bertie, it was a big battle. And then I think he had a turbo or an engine or something. And I won the rally. But, it was a big battle and it wasn't easy to race him. In Rally Germany, we had a big problem. We had a broken turbo and, you need to fight. We need to fight all those rallies to win the championship. And yeah, we won at the end of the day, but it was like a little bit a mind changer to me, because I knew whatever level you drive, you need to go at your best. You cannot just get there and think, I have been in World Championship, I get there and win. It's just not there.
I think you were somewhat lucky to come up against Bertie in the Manx, however, though, because it seemed to be the one that Bertie could just never win. He would always be struck by some, mechanical issues or some bad luck on it. So if it was possibly, something like Killarney or Donegal, you might have had another matter on your hands, but it was just the one that he never could get his hands on, despite his speed and his knowledge of those stages. But I was watching some footage of it the other night, and it was a cracking battle with a lot of very fast cars and drivers, and a lot of local Manx drivers as well. They know that place like the back of their hand, so it isn't an easy rally to go to for anybody.
No, but my target was getting back to a World Championship team and into the World Championship, and I knew there was not many chances, to prove that people should pick me again. And all the other drivers, they have been like longer term contracts, and perfectly, where you could get or where you couldn't get. And especially after 96, when Toyota started developing again, but they had another year where they said, hey, we are not going to rally. I mean, the Japanese said we ban ourselves for 1 more year. And that was even more difficult, because you see, you're really getting late. You cannot wait 2 years and then get back in a car and you're competitive to anyone else. So you need to get back in a car and you get practice, get testing, get rallies, so that you're competitive. And that was getting difficult at that point.
That concludes part 1 of our interview with Armin Schwarz. Part 2 continues next week with the 2-litre WRC era, this time with Ford, Skoda and Hyundai. Thanks for listening so far, and goodbye.